So you have Unit 1 review. Number 1, the first step you always want to do is to distribute. So we are going to distribute that negative to each one of these. So I'm going to bring down my 4x plus 6, and then I'm going to distribute the negative. So I have negative 4, negative, negative, make a positive, 3x plus 2. Alright? Then what you have to do is combine like terms. So I always look for my x's. So I have 4x and 3x. That gives me 7x. And then I have 6 minus 4, which is 2, plus 2 gives me 4. So again, the first thing you always want to do is distribute. Since this is positive 1, when you distribute a positive 1, it's simply going to be the same thing. So I'm just going to bring it down. And then what am I distributing right now? I'm going to be distributing a negative 5 to everything. So this becomes a negative 5x. And then a negative and negative make a positive. 5 and 2 is 10. And then we want to combine like terms. So I always look for my x's. So I have negative x and a negative 5x gives me how much? Negative 6x. And then we have 3 and 4 gives me 7, and 10 more gives me 17. Now, if you have time to, when time is allowing you to check your work, how you can check your work is, say x be, like you can choose one, just like anything. So if you choose 1, if you put 1s in for x's and put in your calculator and you get a number, and then you put in 1 down here and you get a number, that should be the same number. If you don't get the same number, you have an error somewhere. So let me tell you, you can always check your work like that. Alright, so when you have time, I would do it all, but then go through, and you can do this. If you have an x and a y, choose 2 numbers. But whatever you start with, and you can always put in a number to check your work. Alright, does that make sense in how you can check your work to see if you got the right answer? Okay, so, and if we have time at the end, I will show you more about that. Factor. Remember, whenever you see factor, you always want to look for what's in common. So what does 16, negative 8, and 16 have in common? 8. Then we have AB, A squared C, AD, so we can pull out another A. Very good. So then you have to ask yourself, what do I have left? So 8A times what gives me 16AB? 2B. So you always want to make sure you can always get back to this right there. So you have 8 times 2 gives me 16. A times B is AB. So I want it to be negative, so I have negative AC plus 2D, because 8 times what gives me 16 is 2. And then I want a D left, so I need a D. So we have here 15, 9, and 12 all have what in common? A 3. And we have an x, x, and an x there, so that means we can pull out your x. And then a y, y squared, y cubed, so we can also pull out a y. So 3 times what gives me 15? 5. And xy, we already have it, so that's your answer on that one. Plus 3 times 3 gives me my 9. X we already have, and so we just need a y. So we have 3 times 3 is 9, x, and then y times y is y squared. And then the last one, 3 times what gives me 12? 4. And then we already have our x, and then we need still y squared. Yes?
So, on like the common thing, we have to take the 3 out of that, it all goes into 59 and 12.
You want to ask yourself what numbers multiply to give you 3, what multiply gives you 9, and what gives you 12, and you have to take the highest number.
Yeah.
That.
But I'm like asking, why
Oh, sorry.
Why is it only like xy? Why not xy squared?
Because this one doesn't have a this one doesn't have another y. If this had a y squared, you could do, but this only has one y. So you always can pull out what's the most, because there won't be, if you chose a y squared, there's nothing you can multiply y squared by to get y by itself. So it's always, because you have to always think about what am I going to multiply that by to get that answer. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? All right. Number 5, it says to write an equation and solve. So we have Ben's farm, so I'm going to call that B. So the area of Ben's farm.
Wait, on the test, are we going to have to write like what each variable means?
Yes. Because you're just starting out, and eventually you will have to do harder ones. These are more simpler, so we start with the simple ones. Yes.
Do we always have to have 2 variables?
It's not always going to have 2 variables, no. Well, yeah, it would have at least 2 because you're going to have the right side, but it might not have y equals something, but you're always going to have, I can't think of one up here that you won't have 2 on these ones. So you'll see when we get through them. If there's one, then let me know. So then we have here, Katie's farm was the other one, so Katie's area of the farm. And remember, you can use X and Y, but I'm just going to use B and K because that's what we have. So go back and read the first sentence. It says the area of Ben's farm. So remember, that's just B. Is, what does is mean? Equals. How can I write 65% into a decimal? 0.65 of Katie's farm, so that's K. So this, when it asks you for the equation, that's what's going to go on the line for your equation on the test, because it asks you what is the equation. So you want to make sure you have that. Then read the second one. It says if Katie's farm is 177 acres, so we're going to go 0.65 and then put in our 177. What is Ben's farm? So then you can put that into your calculator, and you are going to get 115.05 acres squared. So Ben's farm. Remember, wherever the square is, you want to make sure that's what's getting squared. So this is saying that it's negative, and then there's 2 7s, so it's 7 times 7. So your answer would be your negative 44, or negative 49, sorry. When you have negative 7 in parentheses squared, that means you have negative 7 times negative 7. So you have negative 7 times negative 7 gives me the positive 49. If you know the shortcut, and you know that when you multiply, you add your exponents, when you divide, you subtract them, you can do that. However, I'm going to do it out the long way so that there's always consistency. But if you know the shortcut about subtracting and that, you can just do that right away. But a squared, is it going to stay or move? It's going to stay. So a squared. B to the negative 3. It's going down. So that means it's just going to be b to the 3. A to the negative 5. It's going to stay or go to the bottom? It's going to go to the bottom. Questions about just the top. Because it's negative, that tells me that we have to go to the opposite, and that makes it a positive exponent. So that is where you're going to put it to the bottom. Now, b to the negative 4, that's negative, so that means it has to go to the top. So we're going to go b to the 4. And now we just have to reduce. So you can see that you have 4 b's on the top and 3 b's on the bottom. So how many b's do I have left? 1, and is it on the top or bottom? It's on the top. And then a's, we have 5 on the bottom, 2 on the top, so that means I'm going to have 3 on the bottom. Alright, negative 18 does not have an exponent, so it's going to stay on the top. X to the 5th is positive exponent, so it's going to stay or go. Is this positive or negative? Positive, so it's going to stay. Then my y to the negative 4. What's y to the negative 4 going to do? It's going to go to the bottom. So I have y to the 4. And x squared is going to stay. On the bottom, we don't have any negative exponents, so those are also going to stay. So I'm going to put my negative 3, bless you, on the front, and then I'm going to put my y to the 4th there. What's my last step? Simplify, add the, yes, so we're multiplying, so we're going to add the exponents. So my final answer is going to be negative. Well, let's do this. So negative is a positive. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Then I have x to the 7th and y to the 8th because we added our exponents. If you think about it, you have 5 x's and then you have 2 more, so that's why we add them. Questions? Oh, sorry. Alright, number 9. Number 9 we have here, we have y to the negative 3. Is that going to be top or bottom? Bottom, and what am I going to write? Y cubed is right. Y to the 3rd, y cubed. Top, we have y to the 7. So if I had 7 on the top and 3 on the bottom, how many are left? 4. So I have, and that's on the top, so I have y to the 4th. When it's like this, you know you can always do that trick that I was telling you about. Go first of all, what is negative 2 times 3 times my 9? Gives me negative 18. If we are multiplying, what do we do to our exponents? Add them. So we have 5 and 1 gives me a 6. And then we have this negative 2 goes to the bottom. So we have y squared. First thing we have to do is exponent. So we're going to take this exponent and distribute it. If we have x cubed squared, what do I do with the 3 and the 2? What do I do to them? Multiply them. So I have 5 squared, which gives me 25. X to the 3rd squared gives me x to the 6th, because we're multiplying. Y to the squared is y to the 4th. And here we're doing the same thing. We're multiplying these. So we have x to the 8 and y to the 12th. Since it's all multiplying straight across, what you want to do is you are going to do what to the exponents of like terms? Add them. So I'm going to add those like terms. So I have 25. I have 6 x's and 8 here, so I have 14. And my y's, I have 12 and 4, giving me 16. how can I get rid of fractions for number 12? What can I multiply to each one to get rid of? Is 6 is right. So when you do it, you can go like this. If you want to like save some paper or writing time, you can put a 6 on each one of those, so you make sure that you're doing 6 to each one. So then we have 6 divided by 3, which gives me 2, times 2 gives me my 4. So 6 divided by 6 is 1, and then that's timings it by 1 gives me, oh, you have a 1x. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so 3 times my 5 is 15. And then I would go and I would subtract my 4 on both sides. So x is going to equal 11. If you put in 11 for x, you should get, if you put in 11 for x on this side, you should get your 2.5. So it's a way to check your work. Now, if you struggle with decimals, you can move it over, or you can leave it as fractions or decimals. So I'm going to quickly do this one for you. So we're going to subtract our 0.4y from both sides. So I have 1y is equal, or plus, my 5.02 is equal to 0. Bring it over my 5.2, so y is equal to a negative 5.02. Because I subtracted 5.02 on both sides. Questions on that? All right, enjoy your lunch.
Yep, lunch.